Well, hello, interwebs. So, I just got back from seeing Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And I'll get into that in a second for this review podcast. But yes, I have returned from my shorter hiatus this time. The last review I posted was Star Wars, yeah. And there had been an even longer hiatus between those two. And I don't know exactly how long this hiatus will actually last because I'm currently sitting and looking at my non-functional Xfinity modem / router that Comcast lovely provided me and does not function. So I have a computer, but I have no reliable internet service for it until the tech comes out, and hopefully he will actually get the thing to work, or I strangle somebody. But that's related to the reason why I'm kind of back, and I hope this is going to be the first review that I'm kind of now doing regularly. It's not that I haven't been going to the movies, and I have nothing to talk about. It's that I might have brought this up in the Star Wars podcast that I did for Force Awakens, but I've kind of stopped doing the reviews for a couple of reasons. I started working at a different job that I had to commute for, requires some more hours. It's a good job. I enjoy it. But I then couldn't do these reviews until later in the day. When I was posting a lot of them, I was doing I worked for a different. I was working at a nonprofit actually. And the hours were such that I would get home and no one would be around, so I could go to the movies. I could watch, stop at a theater on the way home, come back, do a review, and by then that's when other people were coming into the house. When I took the other job, my work hours changed a bit, and if I were to do the same thing, it was later in the day. It was actually more towards night when I would get home if I went to the movies. And of course, I was at the time been at my parents' house with also my brother and his girlfriend also living there. So we had a good 5 people living at the house, going and doing, or at 10, 11 o'clock at night, coming home and doing one of these reviews, and everyone wakes up at like 5 or 6 in the morning. Not very good. So that was among the reasons I have not done a podcast in a while. And I had an exception with the Star Wars, partially because I knew it was going to be a bigger movie, and 2, I happened to have a good day where I could do it, where people were not around. So I hope if you're like one of like the 2 people that used to like follow me or listen to my stuff regularly, I hope to be doing more of these. If not, you're probably already pissed off that I haven't gone into the movie yet and turned off the video. But I'll get into my impressions right now. Let's get into this review because Man of Steel, which I did watch last night so I was all fresh in my mind, and I was somewhat mixed upon that. I certainly liked it better than Superman Returns, but I could see where people had some problems. Kind of. I'm personally, I understand that, this no-kill thing is such a stringent part of these characters, when not really. I say that because, the whole no-kill thing, or with these, many of the superheroes with their kind of like personal creed, I will not take a life type deal, kind of really comes from the old censorship that they used to have, and they really needed to emphasize that these characters weren't killing people. They would work with the authorities of some sort. And so that's really a leftover artifice. They're doing it with Daredevil, actually, is probably the best. How they worked around that. If you've been watching this has actually been like the day of comic book stuff, because although I've had no internet, I can still get over to my parents' place and use their Netflix, so I have got caught up on Daredevil, and because that character is so religious, you can kind of buy that line he draws, where he refuses to kill. You can see that, and it makes sense completely for the character and where he's at. And even then, the show has other people like the Punisher and Elektra, who, if they need to kill somebody, they've got characters that'll do it. It's part of the reason why I think season 1 of Arrow worked the best. And I get, because, Oliver Queen would just shoot a motherfucker in the heart with an arrow and not care. You just give him like one chance. You give him like guy one warning, unless you were like a pointless mook who was guarding some sort of warehouse and you didn't have a name. Then he would just shoot you with an arrow. But in this, they've got Batman, and it's like the 1980s Batman, the Tim Burton Batman. He will kill a motherfucker. He kills some people in this movie, and I know the hardcore fans, the hardcore comic fans, are gonna be like, "Oh my God, they're doing it again! Now Batman's killing!" Rah! And listen, I gotta say, I was about to say, well, it's not like he purposely goes out to purposely murder somebody, but he does. That is his intended goal when he starts calling out Superman, is to stab him in the fucking heart with a spear. So this Batman will do that, but at the same time, they are portraying this as an older Batman who has seen some shit, who they imply the whole Robin was been killed by the Joker thing. So I can kind of buy, if we're going with it, this is a veteran Batman who's been doing this for 20 years. I can buy that this character has now, maybe he's gotten then to that point where he will okay, some people's just got to go. And he does that with a lot of the villains, but when he does that, he doesn't kill a ton of them. And it is normally when they're using heavy artillery. It's got it, when he does it, he's not trying. No, I don't really know if I want to use that term. It's part of the he'll try to avoid it as much as possible, I think is the impression I got. He does use a gun in one scene, but it's maybe a dream sequence. I'll get into that when we start talking into them connecting it with the overall universe. But I guarantee you that's going to be the obsession people have of this, because people are complaining about the death toll, which from Man of Steel, which is a huge part of this movie. Now, I'm not sure if that was their intention, if Zack Snyder planned that out, or if they heard all the complaints about the destruction in the first movie, and then they decided to take that and make that a big part of this film. That's something I don't think we'll ever really know unless we have, I guess, unless you're an archivist, you can get into the WB archives at some point, and you can look to see when the scripts were registered. And no, they actually pretty much had the story and plot points and everything laid out before Man of Steel was released, and therefore this was all planned. Or maybe you can get a hold and, well, the script is different, and as soon as it was released and all these reviews came in and people talked about it, all of a sudden they started adding this stuff. It's kind of one of those things I would love to be able to do, is just get into some of those archives for that reason. To see the weird stuff that how films change as they see stuff, especially this type of series continuity film, the shared universe films that are now popping up. But I digress. Yeah, so they address, that's really the driving point. It's why people are a little nervous about Superman, and how they get into the whole why Batman is nervous. They do a pretty good job of showing Bruce Wayne where he was in the whole Man of Steel stuff. Him flying into with a helicopter as Bruce Wayne because he hears what's going on in Gotham or Metropolis, which is apparently, from what I've been, somebody, I think it was DC, did release an official map where they try to show where Metropolis is in relations to DC, in the real world. They picked an actual, they kind of picked an actual location, which I kind of laugh because what they have is the bay they're sharing. If you find this map, is the Delaware Bay, and they put Gotham in Salem County, New Jersey, which, if you've ever been to Salem County, New Jersey, it is pretty much Alabama. I mean, it's nothing. It is literally nothing but swamps. And then Metropolis is in Delaware, which I think that this has been kind of a fan thing for a while, what they're laying it out, because apparently in the DC universe, New York exists, Philly exists, DC, all the regular cities exist, so they had to pick a spot where it would make sense these two cities exist. And they've always been portrayed as East Coast cities because they're really both supposed to be, they're fictional versions of New York, essentially. So they had to get something in the Northeast, and there's only so many locales you can pick that will be both across a bay from each other, and two won't push away or get rid of any other major cities or famous locations that you might need. So you've got Gotham's in New Jersey, which, hey, yay for us. Means Batman's a Jersey boy. Which, it's being played by Ben Affleck, who was in all those Kevin Smith movies, so it makes sense, I guess. And, Metropolis is bland, so it makes sense it's in Delaware. But yeah, so they have Batman, he comes in, tries to save. You see things from his perspective, and he can kind of. They do, and through that, they're really showing the death toll is in the thousands from that. They're acknowledging that. I like that. They probably still undercut it because that seems like tens of thousands probably should have been killed in that thing, but they are showing the explosions and the stuff you're seeing in the background. There are people in those buildings. They show that. Why everyone waited in the Wayne building in this film until Bruce Wayne himself calls them and tells them, you should leave the building. Because that's how it starts. He lands, he gets out of this helicopter, he calls the people at his financial building in Metropolis, and they're all still sitting there with the world engine machine that's just smashing the city piece by piece. And he's basically saying, leave the building. None of these guys thought of that beforehand. As soon as the alien spaceship shows up above the city, you don't have to tell me to leave. I am leaving the building and the city and probably the state. But they do show they show him arriving. Batman trying to save one guy who loses his legs. That becomes a plot point later, or character later. Saves a girl, and they kind of show Batman goes over, asks, or Bruce Wayne asks, where's your parents? Where's your mother? And the girl just points to a building. Only she's pointing really high up, and you see she's pointing to this building that's been cut in half, and she's pointing above where it's been cut in half, implying her parents are just dead from this. So it was. I like that they did that. They at least try to address that, and then shows why Bruce Wayne is highly suspicious of the Batman, and hits on at least some of the point why some people would be a little angry with Batman or Superman. Still, it really does drag. Now, I don't have, because I don't have the IMDb, I don't have IMDb, because I don't have the internet, I don't have IMDb open, which I normally use to cheat and say who's who on this. If we're gonna talk performances, I do like the Bruce Wayne older Batman thing in this. He wasn't the worst. He's not George Clooney. He plays it okay. I mean, he's playing Ben Affleck's doing a very different Batman than pretty much anyone else has done, only because he's playing an older Batman he's basically playing his age, because I think he's getting up there now. Sorry, I had to adjust my throat there. But he's doing that. Crap. This is why I need that IMDb page up. The guy that played Superman, he seems like the same character than the last one. I would imagine he'd be more optimistic and trying to inspire. I don't know. There's something a little. I don't think it's him though. I don't think it's the actor. There's something I feel a little off with the character. But that's definitely from direction and scripting, not the performance. Or at least not the actor's fault. You can tell the way they're doing it is the script calls for the character to act this way, and the director's telling the actor to make the character act this way. So I don't blame him for the slight offness. I feel Man of Steel felt like Superman was taking on that responsibility of being more hopeful, and I don't get as much of that. So I know crap, I'm really gonna. Ooh. I'm hating not forgetting the guy's name. Oh, I'm gonna cheat because I have the Man from U.N.C.L.E. DVD here. Henry Cavill. Thank you, Man from U.N.C.L.E. Underrated spy film. Henry Cavill's performance, yeah. So I know I know Cavill can do this based on Man of Steel, and he can have this more kind of hopeful undertone to him sometimes. It's missing here. It's much. I mean, like I said, it's a much darker film, and it throws you through some loops too, because it has these weird dream sequences, which, I mean, they kind of start with. I guess this is kind of becoming a trade. This is all Zack Snyder, really, because this all starts with Sucker Punch. Him liking this kind of weird, I don't want to call it existential, but surrealist stuff with the whole. Yeah, you saw that in that film too, with the dreams within dreams type thing. And you saw a bit of this in Man of Steel with that whole Zod mind probe. And it's really, for him, just an excuse to get these like crazy visuals, because he doesn't go too overboard enough. You're kind of just like, what the fuck's going on? Because early in the film, I mean, you're seeing the title sequence is actually a kind of dream Bruce Wayne is having of how his parents died, him falling into a bat cave at the funeral, and then these bats come swirling around him, and he starts lifting up into the sky like he's being abducted. And I thought there was going to maybe be a camera trick where they showed he was being pulled up by a rope, but then they cut to a different angle and is very clearly hovering among the bats. It's a Batnado. That's what it is. It's a bat. He's in the Batnado, and he's hovering up in the Batnado. And I was like, what the? Oh, and I kind of guessed at that point that okay, I think this is a dream sequence. And they have a couple of those. Obviously, they had like the post-apocalyptic one that was in the trailer that got everyone going crazy. And that's a scene. Actually, let's just talk about that scene. Because that's where they're trying to connect and set up the Justice League. Because he has the post-apocalyptic dream where there's the... at first I thought this was really just him dreaming and thinking of, oh no, this is what's going to happen if Batman, or if Superman's left unchecked, this is what he can do. And that's a scene where you see Batman use a gun, and he's like shooting the stormtroopers, basically. And as well as the alien things. I know somebody online mentioned what they were somewhere, that they're from the comics. And like I said, at first I thought that scene was just going to be, it's just about Bruce. That's kind of what his fear is, that Superman's going to turn the world into this like dictatorship. But at the end of that scene, you get, I think the guy, was that Cyborg? Again, like I said, I don't follow the comics, the DC comics. I have passing knowledge of a couple of the characters. Is that Cyborg, or is that going to be the Atom that, mentioned in the comics? But basically, he wakes up from that, and then this like dimensional portal opens up, and somebody pops out and goes, It's Lois Lane. She's important. You were right about him. You were, laying out which is laying out some sort of connection with a future movie. And then he wakes up from that as well, because that was also throwing me off. I'm like, oh, they're gonna throw this random little thing in here so they can reference it later. And then he wakes up, so I'm not sure. Anyway, they had that scene where the guy comes out of the portal, and then Bruce Wayne wakes up again at his desk that he just had this dream about. So I kind of wonder what they're doing with that. If they're maybe trying to write themselves out in case they don't want to use that setup in the following movie. I don't know. But that's really where they're setting the Justice League thing up. And of course, Wonder Woman's in this, which I actually, the thing I like best about Wonder Woman in this is her theme. They had this little like rock theme going on with her. So I'll give the soundtrack credit on that. But here's my thing with Wonder Woman in this. I suspect I will enjoy her film. But in this film, like her standalone film that they've apparently is the next one set to go, or not next set to go, but they're filming. They either have it filmed in the can and they're starting to work on the post production, or they're just finishing up filming now. But with her, she's wandering around the background. She's doing something, but I don't get what she's really up to. What's her role in the world? She's kind of a wild card figure that, if you hadn't seen the previews, here's the thing with this character. If you see the previews and you know she's Wonder Woman, it works better. But if you didn't know anything going into this film, you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Why is she doing that? What the fuck's going on? It just raises questions annoyingly and not... I understand you don't want to answer everything, and you don't have to necessarily, but for what they're setting up in this film, you really kind of do. It's just off. You feel like you're missing stuff. I kind of wonder if there's going to be, if they have they're already talking about like the R-rated release for this film when it comes to DVD. I kind of wonder if there's even more stuff cut and it was Wonder Woman stuff where they explained a bit more. Ooh, excuse me. I mean, you get the idea that she's another metahuman, as they say, because apparently Lex Luthor is already collecting files on these potential metahumans, which becomes a bit of a plot point. And like I said, I'm not dissing on the actress at all in this. For what she had to work with, she did fine. I'm just saying this is more of a scripting issue. They need a little bit more explanation about what she's up to or what she's doing, because she's kind of wandering around a party. She basically runs into Bruce Wayne twice. They kind of have a few exchanges. You know she's up to something. You don't know why she's up to something. Then Bruce finds the file on her. Why Lex Luthor is not more surprised that she's running around his party, I don't know. Yeah, it's. I kind of wonder if maybe they don't have these answers themselves. Like when they wrote this script, they didn't know what they were going to do for the Wonder Woman movie exactly. So they might have intended to go back later and add more details and just forgot to. Or they were still in the writing process of that film when this one had to be set in stone and cast and move on. That's I think what probably happened. That's what it feels like here, is that they were planning on adding more with her when they knew what they were going to do with the character in her own film and in the following films, and that probably by the time they got to this film, they probably already had locked the script in, outside of the director making changes for the film itself, outside of producers making it for the the universe story. But like I said, if we're talking about a Wonder Woman portrayal, if you're talking about the actress's portrayal, she works fine. I think she's gonna. Based on what I've seen here, I think when she has her own movie and her own script that's written for her, the actress is gonna do fine. I forget her name. See, this is why I need my cheat sheet from IMDb. But once she has something written for her, I could definitely see her pulling off the performance, doing fine. And if they stick with that cool theme they gave her, I'm cool with that too. Who else should I talk about? I don't want to go into too much detail. One, because I'm getting really tired. But Lex Luthor's portrayal, they definitely went different with him. In this film, he's how should I put this? Jesse Eisenberg is definitely doing the social bullying from The Social Network, and that he's doing Lex Luthor as socially awkward, but I don't want to say crap. I think I might have to say it. Kind of similar to how I speak sometimes. He does a speech, and he kind of, if you see how I'm speaking right now, kind of. Now I just changed my voice. But, alright, if you've seen the movie, you understand what I'm about to talk about. He speaks like that. He kind of has how I'm trying to describe it, which is driving me crazy because it's very meta. And I hate using that term. Anyway, he's very much like that. How should I describe it? But more sociable? You get the sense from him that he's kind of doing it. He feels like he's smarter than everyone else, and he talks down, but he's still socially awkward. It's weird. It's weird, but it works. I will say that he went in a very different original direction for Lex Luthor, which is fine. You don't have to have Lex Luthor as this macho guy, which I think is, I don't want to say macho, but because he's supposed to be more of an intellectual villain, it makes you like that. You can tell he's smart, but you can also, at the same time, he's very unpredictable. You don't know exactly what the hell he's doing, what he's necessarily meaning when he says stuff, but it probably does have meaning. And that works, because you can kind of see he's playing with people's minds and figuring out crap. So I kind of liked it. It's a different villain. That water went down the wrong pipe. And I'm kind of glad with that. Now maybe people are going to write in hating that. That I'm sure there's going to be people that will hate that because they have their idea of Lex Luthor, but I like this one because, like I said, I like it. You understand how he's. Like I said, he comes across as smart, but with that socially awkward portrayal and positive socially awkward, You don't know exactly what he's up to. He's unpredictable, but you at the same time you can tell he's thinking. As for the other setups, like I said, Bruce Wayne during the film steals some data from Lex Luthor, who's apparently not only researching this stuff, but has come up with logos for all the various metahumans he's found, which are, of course, like takes on the logos from the comics. Which, of course, then he of course paid a graphic designer. He's like, okay, we've got this top secret file, but I want you to develop an icon for this. Like, this is your project for the day. Well, LexCorp, I guess, really likes blowing its money on stuff. But you do see Jason Momoa, the Flash, Cyborg as well. With I guess I'm trying to think who. There's a scientist in there as well, and I'm not sure if it's like he's supposed to be Harrison Wells, because I do watch the Flash on TV, and I understand the setup is unlike Marvel, that technically their TV stuff and their movie stuff are all in the same universe. DC's going about it a little differently, where they're having the CW stuff will be completely its own separate thing. And so if they have a Green Arrow, or in this case as they're having the Flash movie, will not be the same as the Flash TV show. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But you get quick little glimpses of them. They're really not in the film. You basically are seeing surveillance footage. There are footage of these guys very caught in their various situations. Now, how Lex Luthor decided to put all this stuff together and how he got all this stuff, that's a whole other question. It's kind of really convenient. Especially when it's like not already like some sort of government. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. was a good excuse. Like, there was already an agency out there that was investigating this stuff. It's not like it's like a stolen Argus file, which is apparently an agency, which that will apparently be in Suicide Squad. But yeah, Lex just having it, like he paid someone to research and find this stuff. Unless I'm missing something, unless it was like a little Argus file or something that would indicate he got these from that agency. You're kind of wondering why he has the info, or how he was able to pull these like random surveillance footages. And I don't want to get into a plot by plot or a point by point plot recast. So I'm just kind of summarize. Like I said, you've got, I think the big controversy on this one will probably be that Batman is really fairly. He probably killed some of those guys. He crashes his car. I mean, he definitely blew up the guys that had miniguns on their trucks. I don't think you can make the argument that. I'm sure somebody's going to say also that, well, we didn't see them die, therefore, they could have survived. I think at this point, like I said, I kind of like that. He's a combat pragmatist. He's not trying to kill necessarily with wanting to, but given the right circumstance, if you happen to get killed, like he definitely one guy in one fight got killed because they were somebody tried to shoot at Batman, and he ducks behind somebody else, and he kind of shoots him up. I guess Batman can make the excuse, well, his buddy shot him. I didn't make him shoot. Like I said, I know that's going to be the controversial part. I kind of like it, because that does annoy me with the whole I cannot kill thing. Superman, I can buy it a little more. I can buy a little more with Superman because he's just that above humans. Like, humans really are not a threat, so he's going to put more effort into saving somebody. But again, at least with this version, when it came down to that scene with Zod and he snapped, and I was fine with it because one, it showed it took an emotional toll for him to have to do that. That was not something that came easy. and that he probably really should have done a little sooner. He was really cutting it close to the wire there, or I should say cutting it close to the 5-year-old in that scene. And I'm a little okay with it with Batman, how he does it in this film. He tries to minimize casualties as much as practicable. I think it's the best way to put it. Tries. Now, as for like I said, my impression overall, I'm still digesting the film. I enjoyed it. I did like. I don't want to. I'm hesitant to use like, only because, not because I didn't dislike the film, but because people then go, well, you like the film, therefore that means you love the film, or this is, you really endorse the film. And I'm not giving it a point scale, because I've stated before, I don't like doing those. They really are meaningless. But I like the film. This is something I think I would watch again. Now, that could be because I like the genre, which that would be a yes. So if you're a genre fan, you'll enjoy the film. If you're a superhero fan, you might dislike the film because they're going in their own direction with a lot of this stuff, and I'm fine with that. So if you're a purist, you will hate this film. That's a good way of putting it. If you're a purist, you'll hate this film. If you just want to see a nice little action movie, see something with characters, and I didn't really... do I want to talk about that very end? You know what? I will save that. I will save that end-to-end what happens. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But I'll save that one because I don't think there's much to say. I think if you pay attention to that last shot before the credits, you understand. Yeah, you get the idea. But I'll keep that one as a surprise. But yeah, so I guess if it's a recommend, should I go and see it? Yes, go and see it. Understand, though, that it's going to be a pretty slow ride up until near the end. I guess to some degree, that's kind of like the same pacing that we had with Man of Steel. So if you could tolerate Man of Steel, you'll find it. Actually, that's probably the best recommendation I can give. If you didn't mind Man of Steel, you probably won't mind this. And we'll see once they move away from Batman and Superman. Maybe we'll get something better. I'm really looking forward to seeing Suicide Squad, which takes place again in the same continuity. It's the DCCU, is that what we're calling it? Apparently the stuff on the CW we're calling Arrowverse. Of course, why not? And this is apparently people are calling the DCCU, which does not sound as good as the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Suicide Squad might be the first one that becomes like the real recommend go see. So tune back in August to see about that. Trying to see if trying to remember if there's anything else. Oh yes, of course. Now, of course, if you want to see other superheroes that are friends and then decide to, well, I guess technically this one they started off as enemies and became friends. And this one, if you want to see more traditionally good guys punch each other, yeah, Marvel Civil War coming up next month, and Hardcore Henry, which I'm looking forward to that. Just because it's a gimmick that has been done before. I only know this because when we did it was a class in college where there's a film, I think it's from the 50s, where it's a detective movie that is also shot all in first-person perspective. So I know most people are saying, oh, there's never been a movie that's entirely shot in first person before. There is one, but nothing like that Hardcore Henry thing that I'm kind of looking forward to. That's the type of film that it could be trashy, but I would still probably enjoy it. And then, of course, the whole summer movie season in general. So tune in. This might be the first of many reviews being done. So tune in, subscribe, all that regular bullshit that people throw in at the end of their videos. Sayonara, folks. Peace out.